I am so worn out from this Kavanaugh thing. I didn't realize how stressed I was until it was over and the votes were in and he was confirmed, and then this just wave of relief washed over me, and I'm so tired. Guys, I'm so tired. Okay, this is going to be a potluck of things, some of which I might revisit for a longer video in the future. The first thing I want to talk about is Canadian apathy. It's pretty tremendously bad. There was this story from this, it's actually from the Catholic Register. And automatically, you know, people don't trust the Catholic Register because it's the Catholic Register, so they've got an agenda and they're going to lie, right? So this story went around on Twitter and elsewhere that the Hospital for Sick Children in Toronto is working out a, quote, roadmap to allow doctors to counsel children into medically assisted death, euthanasia, killing themselves with a doctor in the room. Children under 18. The Toronto Sick Kids Hospital. And the shills came out and said, don't believe everything you read. This isn't true. The president of the Canadian Medical Association actually said it was a vile, disgusting piece of propaganda and he demands it be removed. That sort of thing. I checked it out and it is true. It is true. I had to respond to so many shills because, you see, shills in Canada understand the psychology of Canadians and they understand confirmation bias. I have heard that Trump is a master of using confirmation bias in his speeches and his rallies, etc. But I swear, nobody is better at using confirmation bias than the Canadian media establishment, and obviously the shills and pundits that are also really deeply ensconced. You know, it's so bad in Canada that I don't think you have to pay very many people to go around and exhibit this pathological apathy and pathological denial. I think people are so trained in it, they do it for free. And they do it automatically like human robots, like meat robots. Did you hear that? Did you hear that recording from Faith Goldie when she talked to the people at CP24, the people she had paid thousands of dollars to advertise on, and the guy told her, no, Faith, we're not going to honor the contract. We're returning your money. We won't advertise for you. Faith kept trying to ask him questions, and he just repeated the exact same words over to her, over and over and over. The Canadian brain, sorry for sensible Canadians, you know I'm not talking about you. The Canadian brain, by and large, that is exactly how it works. Black Pilled just did it's a little bit old, his video about, I don't know what they're called. The characters in video games that aren't the main characters, they sort of fill in the scene and they always act exactly the same way every time, no matter what. Like you can come into the scene on the video game and you know they're going to do something and then exit to the left or whatever. Canadians are those things, mostly. We're trained. Okay, let me move on. This story came out and it's 100% true. It's in the British Medical Journal. Let me show you. And co-sponsored by all of these entities right here. Applied Psychology at the University of Toronto, the Bioethics Department at the Hospital for Sick Children, the Department of Pediatrics, the University of Toronto, Pediatric Advanced Care Team, the Hospital for Sick Children, Toronto, Ontario, Emily's House Children's Hospice, Toronto, Ontario, Departments of Pediatrics and Family and Community Medicine, University of Toronto. And medically assisted, they say medical assistance in dying, MAID, that's what they call it. And here's the abstract of the paper, okay? While MAID is currently available to capable patients in Canada who are 18 or older, a small but important subsection of the population our hospital serves. We write our policy with an eye to the near future when capable young people may gain access to MAID. Thus, this paper is intended as a roadmap through the still emerging legal and ethical landscape of pediatric MAID. So it's 100% real. Doctors at all those places that I just named, and it might not be many doctors, I think there's a lot of bureaucrats and policymakers involved. They are trying to find a way to allow people under the age of 18 to choose to kill themselves in the hospital. And that was just the abstract. I don't pay for a membership at the British Medical Journal site. But the Catholic Register, who made the original article that caused the stir, they must, because they know other things from the full article that I can't gain access to on my limited ability to read it. And they say that the plan is, in a flowchart that outlines how a medical induced death would occur at sick kids, authors Carrie DeMichaelis, Randy Zlotnick, Shaw, and Adam Rappaport do not mention conversation with family or parents about how the child dies until after the death occurs in the, quote, reflection period. So either the doctors just didn't bother to put that in their flow chart, or they have no intention of consulting the parents until after the deed is done. I lost it when I read this. I can't think of anything quite as evil as that. Because what I am picturing in my head is my depressed teen, maybe depressed because they have an illness even. I'm taking them to the hospital, I'm waiting out in the waiting room, taking them home again, and this happens regularly. And unbeknownst to me, the doctor has talked my child in to medically assisted death. So one day, I take my child in for their appointment, and at the end, out comes a nurse, because you know the doctor doesn't have the balls to come out and do it himself or herself. Out comes a nurse or some bureaucrat or somebody with a clipboard, and they say, "Oh, Mom, can we talk to you for a minute?" And they tell me that my child is dead because my child decided to kill themselves and today was the day. Imagine that scenario. There is nothing more evil than that. I know that evil things happen to children. And technically and viscerally, they are worse. Child rape and human trafficking and killing a child, obviously. But this is bureaucratic, cold, calculated, premeditated murder that the state is weighing out. It's writing about it in journals. And then one day it's going to be sprung on parents, and perhaps the parents will know nothing about it till it's too late. I can't deal with this. So when I retweeted it and I put a better headline on it to get people's attention, I had all kinds of people telling me, "Oh, no, be reasonable. This can't be what it seems. It isn't what it seems. You're not reading that right. This is wrong. I work in the healthcare field and this will never happen. Wake up, Canadians. Euthanasia happens." I made a video not long ago about a guy named Roger who is he's chronically ill. He has a low quality of life and he's in the hospital. And the hospital wants to get him out of the bed. They want the bed back. So what they're telling Roger is, it's going to cost you $1,500 a day to stay in this room, or $1,500 a week, I don't know. Or you can kill yourself and we'll help you. And of course they say it in a smart, "Hey Raj, are you feeling kind of depressed? You're pretty depressed, aren't you, Roger? Yeah, you're kind of in a bad situation, eh, Roger? Well, don't forget, I'm just reminding you, Roger. I'm just reminding you. We can help you kill yourself. I mean, you're in a tight spot, Roger, and I wouldn't mention it except for it seems like a way to get out of this. Now, Roger's an adult and he's fighting back. What about your kid? What about your 16-year-old kid or your 15-year-old kid or your 12-year-old kid? What chance do they have? And these Canadians on Twitter trying to pretend I'm misreading what I'm reading, trying to pretend the Catholic Register has a sinister agenda by publishing this. The Canadian Medical Association president demanding a retraction. Well, I kept posting over and over the link to the abstract, which shows clearly that it's really happening. It's really being built, this roadmap, and multiple agencies with tons of bureaucrats are involved in trying to smooth this over. Wait, there's another part in there I don't think I read. Right here. We propose that an opportunity exists for MAID-providing institutions to reduce social stigma surrounding this practice. You know what the unethical jerks trying to tell me I was reading it wrong said? They said, I'm not paying enough attention to this part. But not without potentially serious consequences for practitioners and institutions themselves. That's the part you want to focus on? Oh, and guess what? Oh, you're damn right. This will have consequences for the medical personnel and bureaucracy that's involved in it. I can't even imagine what would happen if anyone did that to my child. I have one child. And if someone had gotten to her when she was under 18 and convinced her to kill herself at the hospital because she was depressed, nobody involved in that process would be safe from me. Nobody. And the funny thing is, these people trying to tell me I'm overreacting, trying to tell me, you didn't read the next sentence where it says not without serious consequences for healthcare professionals. Yeah, you know what that means? That means they're concerned about preserving their anonymity. And in the Catholic Register article, they talk about that. The doctors don't want to be known by name. Of course they don't. So that's Canadian apathy for you. You're probably wrong. I'm a paramedic and there's no way this will happen. You're leaving out parts of that article. Please remove it. It's a lie. It's not a lie. It's true. I did my homework. So Canadians, wake up. Do I sound like an alarmist? I want to talk about this before I move on. People have pointed out to me that the reason so many Canadians hate Trump is the same reason they hate Alex Jones. Too bombastic. They don't like the way they talk. They don't like their tone of voice. They don't like their word choices. Yeah, we have to try and pretend we're in kindergarten. Have you heard the way Justin Trudeau talks? In Canada, we love children. Sometimes that means children have to die. Okay, I'm not going to go on. But is that what you want me to say? Because here, let me illustrate my point by bringing to you the next story. And I want to show you the lame headline they put on this thing compared to what they really should put on it for the import of it. Look at this headline and look at the picture that accompanies the story. Sidewalk Toronto has only one beneficiary, and it is not Toronto. Boring. Skip, turn the page, don't even read it. Right? This is a story about Google wanting to get a smart city in Toronto. It wants a chunk of Toronto to basically rule over. Do you remember we talked about in my last video the whole mind control thing and the Internet of Things? Basically, as I can understand it, this smart city chunk of Toronto they want to build is a smart city. It is an Internet of Things city from bottom to top. The guy who wrote this article in the Globe and Mail with that horrible headline, which I'm sure he didn't choose, and that horrible image, which will make anyone turn the page, is Jim Balsillie, and he used to be the CEO and perhaps even the owner, I don't know really, of BlackBerry. BlackBerry was one of the first most successful smartphones, cell phones, right? And they put them out of business because Jim Balsillie appears to have some ethics. Because he wrote a great article, and I'm going to link to this in the description box. Same with the other article. He wrote this article in the Globe and Mail, which you should read the whole thing. And here's some highlights of it. A privately controlled smart city infrastructure upends traditional models of citizenship because you cannot opt out of a city or a society that practices mass surveillance. Foreign corporate interests tout new technocratic efficiencies while shrewdly occluding their unprecedented power grab. As the renowned technologist Evgeny Morozov said, quote, that the city is also the primary target of big tech is no accident. If these firms succeed in controlling its infrastructure, they need not worry about much else. Especially with the Internet of Things, where, as I described to you yesterday, they put chips or readers or sensors or whatever it is, data gathering sensors, in everything. They sell it to the public by saying, if we put it in concrete, then we automatically get notified if potholes develop or if cracks appear in sidewalks. Oh, sure, that's what you're using it for, right? You're not using it to record footsteps. You're not using it to listen to anything. You're not using it. Who knows what they're using it for? And they're capable of all kinds of things. And Jim Balsillie continues. In a recent brief to the federal government, the National Research Council warned that Canada was at risk of becoming a nation of, quote, data cows, leaking our most valuable national resource to companies such as Amazon, Google, and others. Exactly. We talked about interoceptive data yesterday or the day before in my other video, and the fact that they can actually interfere with our free will if they have enough readouts on what we're doing. When you think about it, have you seen the movie Ready Player One? It's a complete immersive experience. Well, imagine a smart city recording every single thing in the environment, including the people. And then remember I told you about optogenetics, where they can, even without your knowledge, change receptors in your brain so that it communicates through LED lights to your environment. So they can tell every single thing about you. They can tell what you're looking at. They can tell if your heart rate goes up in response to it. They can essentially read your mind. They can hear what you hear, see what you see. They can record your every step. Imagine a smart city. They could theoretically take the data gained from a smart city and make a 3D virtual reality version of that same city that runs parallel. For example, like, my mind goes crazy. I just have a crazy imagination. I could imagine a scenario where they sell subscriptions to people to just eavesdrop, essentially, on some of the people in that smart city. Kind of a Second Life. Do you remember that primitive sort of video virtual reality game they had online, Second Life? People got really into that. They actually bought things for their house. They bought clothing items for the virtual character on the computer. Imagine if the Second Life characters were actually real people living inside of a smart city. And maybe they didn't even know. Maybe they didn't know. And maybe you, as the gamer, could have things happen in their environment. Look, this is all just total fiction. This is my imagination. And I'm not saying that's the intention of what they're doing. I'm just trying to give you a picture of how absolutely comprehensive the smart city proposal is for Toronto. What else did Balsillie say? Balsillie, what a great name. Okay. It says, Waterfront was undeterred. Waterfront is like the name of the organization planning this, by the way. Waterfront was undeterred by such warnings and rushed to create a contact with Sidewalk without any input from city staff. The agreement was so flawed, Waterfront Toronto's board tried to keep it secret for months, while Toronto City Council got a report making it clear the council didn't know what Waterfront was doing. The unsuspecting public and public office holders were alerted to it by the board's only elected official, City Councillor Denzel Minan Wong, who said, quote, "I know enough about the agreement that I think you would like to know more about the agreement." Thank God for that person. And what else? He goes on, "The charitable among us would call these approaches incompetent, given that Waterfront has no expertise or experience commercializing either IP or data. The more astute would say this is a pattern of deliberate effort to make sure that Sidewalk comprehensively claims all the project-related IP and systematically extends its control of citizen data. After all, a Waterfront board member recently quit in protest over their relinquishing too much control to Sidewalk." So you see, this is the point, another point I want to make. There's always people, after something horrible happens, like child euthanasia gets installed and is happening, or Waterfront, or the Google Smart City is implemented and actually starting to do horrible, nefarious things. There's always a huge segment of the population that runs around like, how could this have happened? How could nobody have warned us? Those people drive me crazy because, as I said about the sick kids thing, people are trying to warn you. People are out there talking about it. And you're calling them overreacting, tinfoil hat wearing, not reading the paper right. It's an outright lie. You go into deep denial mode, apathetic Canadians. This is the stage of development of both of the projects I've mentioned so far tonight, where we can stop it. But you have to believe people like me, people like Jim Balsillie, people like the Catholic Register, when we tell you that this is happening. You have to believe us. I don't care if you don't like the fact it's coming from a Catholic organization. I don't care if you think that I sound like an alarmist. I don't care if you say Jim Balsillie might just be jealous because his company didn't do as well as Google or Apple or whatever. All of that's bullshit. Pardon me. All of that's baloney. It's crap. You're in denial. You're apathetic. You want someone else to do something about this. So your easy way out is to say, geez, I should have listened, I guess. Should have taken that blonde chick seriously when she was acting like a crazy person on YouTube. Yeah, why don't you look it up yourself? I've tried to show you. I've tried to prove it. It's really happening. Nobody believes it. And then once you've got a city of cyborgs, basically, in this smart city, who are killing their kids in the Toronto Sick Kids Hospital because these kids are so depressed because their every move is being monitored by Google. And by virtue of that, Google and all kinds of advertisers are nudging them this way and nudging them that way and turning them all transgender because there's huge money in transgender for the medical system and in the fashion system and the makeup system and the wig system. Like, think about how much money they're raking in from transgender kids. It's horrifying that we are letting corporations take over every facet of our lives for money so they can make profit. I know this is supposed to be a happy day because of Kavanaugh, and I am happy. I am happy about that because hopefully things will turn around in the States. The United States is the only country standing in between all of us living in smart cities while our kids, if they get depressed, we're terrified to take them to the doctor because the last 5 people we knew who took their kids in from therapy ended up with a headstone instead of a child. I don't know if Canada can be saved. I've said it so many times. Yeah, we have Maxime Bernier. But we have a giant army of video game characters who are pre-programmed to do the same moves every time you walk in a room. They are happy to exist on their little loop. Go to work, come home, burn your dinner, have a beer, watch the hockey, go to bed. Get up, go to work, come home, burn your dinner, have a beer, watch the hockey, go to bed. And even worse than that, they like to get mad at anybody who tries to wake them up. Not to mention the censorship regime here in Canada. Not to mention how cozy we are with China. Not to mention the massive influx of refugees and people from the third world. And that's about to get worse too. But this is a half an hour long. I'll save that for another day. Suffice to say, Ahmed Hussein and George Soros have recently opened yet another NGO, partnered with Frank Giustra to bring even more people to Canada, where we already can't house them, give them jobs, or teach them English. Okay, everybody, I'm going to stop talking now. Thanks very much. Please give a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't. Share the video, and I'd love to hear your comments. You know, I always read all of them. Thanks a lot. Peace out.